We're starting back on our live episodes of Logically Speaking, and today we are going to talk about Captain Brock Horner. He's been going through the news lately and probably on your Facebook feeds and with the videos that's been going around. This was the captain who went after a younger fisherman, the 22-year-old kid on his boat, who was arrested for a burglary with assault or battery. So we're going to talk about that, what that means, and I've seen a lot of comments on those posts as to why the other fishermen on his boat aren't being charged, or should they or can they be charged. So we're going to talk about that as well. So Captain Brock Horner has now been arrested for burglary with assault or battery. In Florida, burglary with an assault or battery is a first-degree felony, and it's actually punishable by a maximum sentence of life in prison. It's a pretty serious felony. Now, that doesn't mean that ultimately that's the sentence he's going to get, but it is a maximum sentence punishable by life. It's going to score pretty high on the guidelines for what he could potentially get sentenced to. But there leaves also a lot of room for his attorney to ultimately negotiate something lesser and something of a reduced sentence. So what does that mean? I've also heard a lot of people go, how can he be charged with burglary when he jumped on the kid's boat? He didn't steal anything. So burglary actually isn't a crime of theft. Burglary is the unlawful entering or remaining in a structure without permission and with the intent to commit a crime, some crime other than burglary or trespass. So it's the entering or remaining on the structure. A boat is considered a structure under the law, as well as like your car, your vehicle, your home. All of those things are considered structures. If they're occupied, it's an even higher level of a felony. So this one was occupied by the other boater, and then it becomes that punishable by life when an assault or a battery is committed as well. The assault is the intentional putting someone in fear that you're going to hurt them. So assault is the saying something or doing something that puts somebody in fear. Battery is the unwanted touching. So what I've seen in the reports and in the things that have come across that I didn't know prior to the captain being arrested was that it's alleged that Captain Brock Horner actually grabbed the shirt of the young boater, and just grabbing that shirt is actually a battery under Florida law. If, of course, that's proven to have occurred. So this is actually a burglary with a battery. The young boater has made in his statement to law enforcement said that he was in fear. So that is an important for potentially the lesser of the assault. If the assault charge is there, but not the battery, that he was in fear. I think the video kind of speaks for itself. You can hear the fear in that young man's voice as well. At least I can in the video. But I think that video can show what might need to be proven by the state ultimately if this case were to go to trial, just on the assault alone and the putting in fear and his actions and his words, the things that he said. All of those things can do that. So that's how he's charged with burglary with assault or battery, and what he's facing and how he got there. And importantly as well, the United States Coast Guard and the Fish and Wildlife Commission are also doing their own investigations. That could lead to additional charges, as well as, of course, the revocation of his license, his charter captain's license. And so it's yet to be seen what other types of charges could come about. Of course, the U.S. Coast Guard handles things under the federal jurisdiction and on the water. So potentially there could be even some additional charges coming. So we'll wait to see how that pans out. So the next part that I've seen a lot of questions asked about is, why are the other boaters that were on the captain's boat not being charged? Essentially, I see a lot of people saying they should be charged too. They were there and they didn't do anything and they didn't stop it. And so under Florida law, you are not required to step in. If you see something happening, you're not required to step in and try to stop it. You're not required to de-escalate. There are exceptions to that, of course, for law enforcement and things like that who do have a duty. But a general, good, like it's the Good Samaritan, right? It's the laws for the lay people. We don't have a duty to step in to try to de-escalate or to try to stop the crime. So there's nothing that they could be charged with. One exception to that could be potentially if any of them encouraged or assisted or helped in the captain in this crime, they could be charged as a principal. If you're charged as a principal, you're charged just as if you did the crime. One example that I use to explain that is if, for instance, you're driving a car, your friend is the passenger, and you drive up to a gas station and your friend goes inside and shoots the clerk, and then comes in, runs into the car, and you both take off and leave in the car, and you knew what happened and you assisted in that by either knowing what happened after the fact and helping him get away, or you knew he was going to do it ahead of time, or maybe this was you were both kind of encouraging each other, doing those kind of things. You can also be charged with that shooting just as if you had pulled the trigger under the principal theory. So if anything comes out that potentially any of them did any of that, there is potential that they could be charged. I haven't seen anything that's going to lead me to believe that that's going to happen or that there's any evidence of that. So ultimately, I don't expect that they would be charged with anything because they didn't have a duty to do anything. Now, whether they morally had a duty to do something is a different question, and that's up for debate on how you feel about their actions or their inactions and whether they should or should not have, but they didn't have a legal duty to have to step in and de-escalate. So that is the story behind Captain Brock Horner and his charges and what he's charged with and what he's facing, and why the others on his boat have not been charged. If you have any sort of criminal cases going on at Oliveira Law, we handle criminal and family law cases, and we are always here to help, and feel free to give us a call.